Let's execute an immediate high-gear tactical vector shift away from subterranean biodefense facilities, Tier 5 clean rooms, and automated atomic self-destruct overrides, and plunge directly onto the volatile, calculation-heavy tracking grids of chronokinetic displacement anomalies, high-stakes military espionage intelligence, and the fixed historical temporal anchors of World War II. We are crossing the threshold directly into the hyper-monitored naval harbors, deceptive retro-social arenas, and ticking clock matrices of 1941 Hawaii with Time Risk 1, the exceptional, rapid-pulsing opening deployment that anchors the chart-topping Time Risk series by the visionary authors writing under the joint moniker Elyse Douglas. This high-velocity operation delivers a thrilling, deeply volatile look at an operational crossroads where a modern protagonist asset, a severe disruption of the prime continuum, and the impending catastrophe of the Pearl Harbor air assault collide at terminal velocity. Let's lay out the strategic narrative grid. If you are a fan of high-octane, chronologically complex sci-fi thrillers where a brilliant, out-of-time modern heroine must navigate an absolute maze of military security loops, strict mid-century counterintelligence protocols, and impending historical flashpoints while running a blind survival loop inside a world unaware of its own imminent deletion, where an analytical mind uses future knowledge databases, vintage lifestyle profiling, and absolute psychological stamina to outmaneuver both local military police and shadow temporal anomalies, and where the authors utilize an incandescent modern outsider trapped in a doomed historical outpost diagnostic routine to test our protagonist's structural survival perimeters, this book is engineered to lock you in. Douglas completely dominates the chronokinetic espionage noir dynamic, capturing the heart-racing emotional momentum, suffocating historical inevitability, and deep psychological depth popularized by genre vargs like Jack Finney, Connie Willis, Stephen King, and Ken Grimwood, while treating Mabel base operational logistics, historical timeline tracking, and protective temporal defense grids with absolute technical mastery. The narrative tracking grid zeroes in on our central protagonist axis, a masterfully calculated alignment between an individual experiencing a catastrophic, involuntary tear in the fabric of spacetime, and the military personnel of Battleship Row who are systematically tracking toward a predetermined historical erasure event. Our heroine is the ultimate blueprint of displaced resilience, operating under a severe, calculation-heavy handicap. She must project absolute 1941 social camouflage and historical compliance, while her internal security metrics are pushed to the absolute brink by the knowledge of a looming military disaster. Her daily workspace is a highly monitored ecosystem of bustling naval docks, office clubs, and retro-intelligence press pools. Her internal defense mechanisms are locked down tight behind a layer of absolute tactical discretion, her entire analytical focus strictly consumed by monitoring historical date markers, parsing complex paradox trajectories, and shielding her true origin matrix from being compromised by suspicious naval intelligence assets. The spark ignites when her active scanning perimeter registers an unexpected, high-frequency structural anomaly. The exact date coordinates lock into early December 1941. The official diagnostic metrics of her modern civilian life flatline instantly. As the impending threat of the aerial strike sequence draws closer to its launch perimeter, her analytical mind forces an active tracking sequence. The standard boundaries of past and future crumble, and our protagonist runs completely out of standard civilian escape vectors. She is forced into an elite survival game, tracking hidden espionage threat metrics across Oahu, trying to determine if her presence is a random cosmic error or a deliberate calculation-heavy manipulation of the prime timeline. The tactical parameters instantly explode as her historical and survival warfare turns completely active, transforming the sunny paradise of Honolulu into a volatile psychological pressure cooker and a physical battle zone. Our veteran survivalist asset is forced to deploy her massive intuitive tradecraft, environmental mapping skills, and raw behavioral stamina to maintain her perimeter before the wheels of history grind over her position. When deceptive military commanders, strict martial law protocols, and calculation-heady chronological paradox loops launch aggressive countermeasures to permanently suppress her warnings, her survival instincts engage their final deployment tracks. Every midnight dockside observation, every silent choice to let her modern behavioral tells slip behind closed doors, and every intense moment of channeling her deep future knowledge to outmaneuver local intelligence officers chips away at her reliance on original defensive rules. What follows is an exceptional, high-stakes war of perspective, tactical position, and raw human grit. We watch the mid-century military empire's deceptive perimeters completely unwrapped as Douglas reveals that the true victory requires more than just surviving an air raid or escaping an interrogation cell. It demands an absolute, uncompromising defense of human lives against a fixed, cold, calculating chronological timeline.
while our central protagonist smooths over the historical and defensive blind spots of those around her with devastating analytical force. A brutal series of military confrontations and high-stakes chronological trials shifts the clock into its terminal phase, proving that the executioners of the historical timeline have tracked her to their final outpost. To survive the impending locked grid trap and permanently secure a pathway back to her original horizon, our resilient heroine must unleash an absolute, unyielding defense of her final boundary limits. It is a sci-fi time travel thriller, historical military suspense, espionage action drama, and high-velocity temporal reclamation masterpiece that treats deep historical logistics and intense emotional friction with elite precision. The tension here burns with a sharp, calculation-heavy intensity. We are talking about that high-frequency, one historical alteration shatters the entire future timeline energy, where a sudden pause in a dark naval communications office, an unexpected shift in an intelligence officer's protective physical posture during an interrogation, or a heavy, possessive realization that history is marching toward an unavoidable lethal trap carries massive structural weight. Douglas writes with an exceptionally fresh, vivid, and beautifully blunt voice, perfectly capturing the cold metallic hum of massive naval vessels, the oppressive, heavy atmosphere of a humid tropical night before a battle, and the distinct, subtle scent of aviation fuel, salt water, tobacco, vintage perfume, burning metal, and pure, unadulterated suspense. What truly elevates this series starter into elite level is the author's unmatched ability to balance realistic military operational mechanics and genuine high-stakes time travel philosophy tradecraft alongside a breathtaking narrative pace and deep conceptual hooks. Our protagonist doesn't rely on unbelievable, superficial Hollywood superhero action tropes. Her immense situational intelligence, strategic patience, and profound survival instincts match the complexity of the chaotic historical underworld she dominates step for step, making her choices to risk everything feel profoundly authentic and deeply gripping. The pacing moves with calculated momentum, tracking intense conversational standoffs and breathtaking personal breakthroughs before ratcheting up to an absolute, jaw-dropping conclusion that delivers total, hard-earned advancement to her horizon. Time Risk 1 is the definitive pro-level upgrade your high-stakes sci-fi thriller and deep historical suspense library demands right now. It is elegant, immensely fast-paced, and utterly unputdownable. It proves that when your entire sanctuary is targeted by a cold, calculating temporal countdown, the most revolutionary play you can execute is to lock your perimeters, embrace your future knowledge metrics, and fight like hell against the clock to rewrite the data. So secure your personal reading sanctuary, review your emotional defensive perimeters, open your Kindle, and prepare to track the continuum.